Okay, so my clip is on a player at my local cricket club, which is a part of the Cheshire Cricket Board, which is like a little category from the English Cricket Board, the ECB, which is the national governing body. The national governing body was developed and nurtured in the bat and bowling in 1750. It was like just a little pub restaurant in Hampshire, which could hold up to about 2,000 spectators. And on a weekly basis, the spectators would come to this pub and watch the match. There's a lot of wagering going on, up to about five grand, which in today's money is about 500,000. That was going well until the standardisation of ruling was implemented in 1774 by MCC, Marylebone Cricket Club. The rules were at that time standardised to the size of wicket, the size of the bat, all sorts like that. And then later in 1864, the over-arm bowling was legalised, so nearly a century apart. So at that point, Hambledon Cricket Club was on the decline, and the MCC was on the rise, and it was the main club in England at that time, and it was mostly supported by the gentry. So there was a lot of funding, there was a lot of support, and it really took off. And then there was a professional cricket player called William Clark, who separated cricket as a sport. So it was before he developed it, but it was like fragmentation of cricket, and now after he tweaked it, it became a national success, and that's why we have such a wide participation in cricket today. His team, William Clark 11, toured the country with professionals, and the game really took off from there, really. So, my player, I've identified some strengths, weaknesses from my player, and the first strength would be the pull shot. Pull shot is a common shot in cricket. It's used effectively to score runs when fielders aren't on one side, with a disproportionate amount of fielders on the side of the pitch. It's quite an intricate shot to play. There's a lot of technical aspects to it. There's being on your tip. Well, the first coaching point would be to really project yourself onto your tiptoes. So that would mean that the muscles in your legs were working like the process of plantar flexion. So that's the gastrocnemius, which is the agonist muscle contracting in a concentric manner, and the tibialis anterior, which is the agonistic muscle to lengthen, that really projects the player upwards so he can get really on top of the ball, and it stops him from hitting in the air and then having the risk of being dismissed. It's a horizontal bat swing, so it's not in the air, it's not risky, it's on the floor, and the batter uses his trigger step. So that's the motion of his back foot coming forward and his front foot following forward. So coming at the ball, it's like a gauge to whether the batsman can see the ball, pitch of the ball that's short or full, and you can really get focused on the ball, and then he's ready for any deviance off the pitch, and he's ready. So it's not like he's taking it from a stationary standpoint. The second strength the batter has is the front foot strike, foot defensive. Again, a common shot in cricket, and it's the most safe way to play cricket. You're not going to get out. Its coaching points are similar to a lot of the shots in cricket. You need that large stride to the pitch of the ball, so getting right on top of the pitch and that bounce of the ball, so any deviance from the pitch won't really have that much effect on the batter because he's already over the ball. The there's no gap between bat and pad, so the ball can't fit through the gate, and it means that then you can't be bowled basically. And once you've got into that position, you should have your elbow, head and knee all aligned in one position with a vertical line, and it should be you totally dominating the ball. You should be over it, and you just have to stop the ball dead. That's the aim of the shot, and he does it very well. The muscles used in the front foot defence is the rectus femoris and the bicep femoris, and the knee is a hinge joint. The antagonist is the rectus femoris, which is the one that lengthens when reaching for the ball, and the bicep is the effect of when the hinge joint is flexing, and it just shortens. Similarly to the front foot defensive, this shot he's playing here is a straight drive. It's just the more attacking version of the front foot defence. So all the coaching points are the same: getting large stride in, being really on top of the ball, leaning forward, head down, head aligned with your knees. But the only thing that's different is the backswing. The backswing needs to be a bit higher to generate the power that you're going to need to then follow through with the swing. You don't want to hit it too hard, you're just relying on timing and the backswing itself. The bat is heavy enough to generate enough power. From these two shots there that I've seen him play, I can pick up on his balance. It's very adequate for his shot that he's playing, because you're quite low to the floor, you're moving a lot of the time in the crease, and it's hard to lose your bearings and then your head to fall off your shoulders basically and lean forward. So to get good balance in these shots, it's pinnacle that you get low to the floor, because a low centre of mass stabilises you better. So more stability if you get low to the floor. The large stride forward increases the surface area of support, so that increases stability also. And then the line of gravity should go straight through the base of support, so that's his front foot and his back foot, and it just goes straight through, and as you can see in the shots, he's not wobbling, he's very stable, and he plays the shot to an excellent standard. Running between the wickets, I've watched my performer running between the wickets, and running between the wickets is an essential part of cricket. You run quicker, you get more runs. So it is important for every batter in every form of cricket to kind of have that ability to speed up straight from the go. Again, the coaching points would be large stride forwards, because you're wearing all the pads or the helmets. So your movement is restricted, so you need to get as large strides as possible. You need to extend the bat when you're approaching the crease, because, as I said, you're in the pads, you don't want to be running further than you need to be. So you really reach for the crease, and then using the heaviest part of your equipment, which is the bat, you need to propel forward, so it's like you kind of throw it forward but not release the bat. So that momentum builds while you're running in between wickets. The energy system used while running between wickets would be the ATP system, mainly because it is short duration, because you're not really running for longer than 10 seconds. But however, it is high intensity, so when you're running, the ATP uses its it's the only immediate source of energy, so it is really just a constant cycle for 3 to 10 seconds, and it resynthesises one ATP every time it uses one, rather than a longer process, maybe for a marathon, where you would use aerobic system, where the yield would be considerably higher at 38 ATP. But we don't need this for running between wickets, because you're only going to be running once or twice. Any score higher than that, you probably hit a boundary. So, coming on to the tactical aspect of his batting that I've watched, is the lofted drive and his shot selection. It's important shot selection. I mean, you don't want to be hitting in the air to a fielder that's out on the boundary, because then you run the risk of getting caught, and you don't want to be just guiding the ball down to a slip and then running a quick one, because chances are you're going to run out. So his lofted drive would be in a scenario where the fielders would be in around in a ring. Maybe he's come in an over where there's a hat-trick ball and all fielders are quite focused and in around him, so there's all that space behind the fielders. So a chip over the fielders would be adequate to score enough runs to maybe drop that arousal bit and calm his nerves. So, as again, for nearly every shot in cricket, you need to get that foot to the pitch of the ball, because if you're leaning back, if you're not quite there and you try and chip the fielders, you're going to hit the bottom of the bat or the top of the bat, not the middle where you're going to get the most power, and it's just going to chip it to a fielder most likely. A bigger backswing is required than normal, so a lot of power generated by the backswing to really clear the fielders a couple of yards over the head. You want to be playing it a little bit late, so it does get that trajectory where it's going to go straight over the ball, the fielders' heads. And that's also linked into moving around the crease. You really need to get in the right position for your shot. You need to attack the ball if it's short. You need to wait for it if it's longer, or if it's a slower ball. Most batters use the trigger step, as mentioned before, where they stay on the edge of the crease and come a little bit forward, and then they're ready to move back, move forward, and it gives them a chance to move back quite considerably if they're at the edge of the crease. So they've got all that time behind them to give them more time to manipulate a shot. And lastly, the main point is to be confident while batting. You've got to walk. It's essentially walking forward. If you walk forward and you kind of put pressure on the bowler, you're gonna have chances to put him away for some runs. So if you've got high self-efficacy, you're gonna put more pressure on the bowler that you're gonna have that chance to manipulate shots. So it links in with, if the batsman is a knackered form and needs to achieve, he won't shy away from a challenge, and he won't show signs of avoidance behaviour. He will attack the bowler if he is showing signs of pressure and drops of confidence, really capitalise on that, on the bowler's poor performance. So coming on to the weakness of the batter, his back foot defensive shot was okay, but wasn't adequate for the game situation. He wasn't quick enough, and he wasn't quite in the right area to play the shot. With any back foot kind of shot in cricket, you need that plantar flexion to really project you above the ball and really get your head over it, angle the ball down. But in this case, it was his arms were kind of loose. He wasn't on his tiptoes, and he hit the edge of the bat and chipped up to mid wicket. So the next weakness that I'm talking about with batter is accuracy. I saw him hit through a gap earlier on, but then he tried to replicate twice and it didn't quite pay off. So you really, to have great accuracy, you really need a textbook stance, which is the feet shoulder width apart, your head at the bowler, your arms tucked into your waist, and you need to have a slight bend in your knees, so you're ready to spring up for any unforeseen pitches off the ball. So so you can put them away basically, and then the ability to adjust your wrists is very key in accuracy, because you could be in a completely wrong position as the balls come quicker than you thought, but your ability to adjust your wrists can impact on whether you hit a 4, a 6. You know, just using that pace of the ball with a flick down leg side or a guide down to third man. Accuracy here, I could link, like I've linked it into how it is in a training session. So the performer has low arousal. It's not in an ecological valid setting, as say maybe a league match. So there is low arousal there, and then that directly impacts his performance. It won't be as good as it can. However, you need to be at optimum level. You need to be at an optimum level of arousal to have great performance. So the optimum level, it's a good performance. It's when you're at the optimum level, your cue utilisation is a lot better than, say, if you were low levels of arousal. Your field of view is narrowed quite considerably, and you're only filtering relevant cues, and you're just forgetting about the relevance of, say, maybe when you're lower aroused and you've got batters next to you in the next net, or bowlers, or talk, just general talk. So that's at one end of the spectrum. However, if you are over aroused, then your performance again drops. But this is termed hypervigilance, where the performer goes into a state of panic and loses all that sense of orientation, and just it has the same effect, just at the other end of the spectrum, really. And then you can also link accuracy in with flexibility as well. So flexibility and accuracy go quite well with each other. Your ability to be accurate is proportionate to how flexible you are. I mean, in one of his shots, he was overreaching for a ball. So a coaching point for flexibility would be make sure you do a warm up, make sure your muscles are stretched, so you don't have that need to really lean because your muscles aren't as loose as you would like them to be. Another weakness of, tactical weakness of my performer would be leaving the ball onto the wickets. He left the ball onto the wickets, and obviously he got bowled, he was dismissed. And I think, he did this because he wanted to get himself in a position where he was able to maybe manipulate a ball to such a manner where he hit a ball to where maybe a fielding position, where maybe a fielder had just been moved out from. So a fielding position might have opened, and he'd seen it, and then he'd looked to maybe angle and just push that ball into that gap. But he moved too much, so he's lost all orientation and bearings around the wickets, and he's just decided to leave the ball, and it's maybe it's had a little bit of a swing, and it's just clipped off stump, and then he's been dismissed. So if you want to combat that, you're going to have to really get on the edge of your crease, because the nearer you are to the batsman, the easier the gauge is to know where the ball is going. And a big stride out into the wicket, into the line of the ball. So if you do miss it, or if you do intend to leave, it's going to hit your pad and not your wicket. My major weakness is a skill, and it's the cut shot. He tried to cut shot, and I think that all the accuracy, flexibility, and just came in, it all moulded into one, and he didn't really do it very well, didn't execute it to a high enough standard. It was awful. He bent over, he wasn't in the right stance, his bat was too high, he tried to hit it too hard and just completely mishit it. So the coaching points for this would be that he'd have a wide base, so he'd have his back foot in the direction of the ball, which would be in the 90-degree angle. So he'd bring it forward, so his chest would be facing the bowler, and his bat would be in level with his shoulders. his knees be bent, as I said before. If the ball does decide to cut in, you can then jump up and change its direction. And I'd tell him to play it slightly late, because you don't want to be playing it too early, because you'll in the position that you are in, you need to be leaning back, waiting on the ball. If you play it too early, you're going to be chipping it to cover other bowler, back to the bowler. So lean back, play it late, and just guide the ball into the slot instead of really hacking at the ball, because it reduces your risk of getting nicked off. My action plan to combat this is over 6 weeks. So it's a mesocycle, and it's an it's a mesocycle over 6 weeks, and it has the aim of reaching a midterm goal of having to play the cut shot adequately in the game. So for my first test, I'll have 2 cones in the cut shot position, which is 90-degree angle to the wicket. You'd have 2 overs, 1 bowler each, and he'd face the 12 balls, and we'd see how many balls going through this gap. The bowlers would be high standard, so the accuracy and precision will be on point. So there won't be any bowling down leg side where it's just impossible for them to play a cut shot. So we'd score him on out of 12 how many went through and how many runs that would have scored on, like, projecting it, how fast he did it, how quick it came off the bat. So week 1 would just be starting slow, get the batter really homing on his technique. So a coach or another performer would kneel down several metres away, probably like 3 metres away, and he'd just loop cricket ball after cricket ball up to that torso level of the batter. So he'd just have a repetition of just that technique of him playing that cut shot over and over again at a slow pace to really fine-tune the technique. Week 2 would be to use a table, so no specialist equipment, just grab a table, put it a couple of yards in front of the batsman, and just have the coach just skim cricket balls off this table, and the table allows the ball to get natural height, but not in such a natural game setting. So he has that opportunity to develop his schema and such, like where it's coming a bit quicker. He's having a short time to think about it, as you would in a game, quicker bowling and stuff like that. So the table will allow the ball to hit the torso area where he cut the ball. The action plan would be a whole part whole action plan where we've tested his ability to cut the ball as a whole technique, and then we've taken bits apart of it, like technique, ability to cope with different paces and stuff, and practice them as a part, and then we're going to, when the retest comes after the 6 weeks, we're going to incorporate all of them together and then see how well it does as a whole skill again. So moving on to week 3 would be the bowling machine. Probably about 25 minutes this time on the bowling machine, as opposed to maybe an hour session in the net in weeks 1 and 2. So 25 minutes. The bowling machine allows precision, accuracy, a good pace that's easily manipulated. You can change it for if he's not coping well with a setting at 70-75 miles an hour, which is admittedly too fast for maybe a game like at club level, but this batsman has played Cheshire before, so if he does want to proceed into that autonomous stage of cricket again, then he's going to have to practice at a higher level of bowling. So the bowling the bowling machine just allows repetition of the skill, and it isn't more a natural setting. So it's like you've got the length away from the ball, you've got the time it takes, and you've got to move your feet, think about where the shot's going to go. So week 4 would be 10 minutes in the bowling machine to recap, to get a sense of what the technique would feel like, the kinesthetic feel of the skill on the bowling machine. And then he'll come into the net where he'd have a variety of bowling from different types of bowler, spin bowler, pace bowler, medium type. This would really develop his sense of decision making, whether he needs to go and attack the ball, wait for it, and maybe attack and play it later than usual, or lean back and play it late. So week 5 would be just a normal net session, probably for about an hour back. So he has the chance to really develop his shot selection. So he's going to be getting just a different type of, like, not every ball is going to be the same, so he's going to be getting a variety of different bowling. So he's going to develop shot selection and all sorts. And then week 6 would be a game situation in a, like, it's not artificial, it would be an actual game, and we'll analyse his shot selection then, his ability to score runs in the section of the field which a cut shot would usually score runs in. To retest, it'd be in a training session but simulating a game situation. So it'll be 2 bowlers again, 1 bowler, the same 2 bowlers, 12 balls, 2.5 metres wide cones at the cut position, and we're going to look for maybe the batsman to double his efficiency in runs scored. Maybe say the initial test he scored 10 runs, we're looking for 20 runs, and it really gives us a gauge of whether he's how his shot selection has improved, his feel for the skill has improved, and his technique's improved, and how he can then start scoring in situations like that in games, and then really set the tempo for the rest of the game.